To understand MRP system, you need to understand what our independent and dependent demands are. Dependent demands is caused by the demand for a higher level item. Simply put, dependent demands items are components and parts. So all components and parts are dependent demands items, which require a demand for a higher level item. Metal parts, wheels, engines, and tires, these are the dependent demand items. What is independent demands then? Independent demands are finished goods and end items. In this case, independent demands is car. As you know, car consists of thousands of parts and components. For example, tires and wheels and engines. These are the critical components and parts to produce a car. So in order to produce this car, we need those items to be ready. So timing is very important, right? As you see, the demands for these parts and components are dependent upon the demands of a car, which is the higher level item. If there is high demand for a car, then those parts and components need to be ordered accordingly. So how much to order and when to order are very critical information in order to produce cars on time. Because time to market is one of critical order winning criteria today. Please note that demand for independent demand items such as car here cannot be forecasted, but cannot be calculated, but forecasted. So we cannot forecast demand of car, but we can forecast based on the customer, previous customer order or company's aggregate production plan. So based on this forecast of demand for cars, these dependent demand items, wheels, engines, and tires can be calculated. So that's the actually MRP system. How to order and then when to order is not actually the easy one. It is very complex process. Requires the high level of computerized system. So independent demand item is the items that are ready to be sold and demands not related to other item. Simply called this is final end product. And dependent demand items are derived demand items for component parts, sub-assemblies, or raw materials. So MRP is the logic. So you have to understand MRP is the logic. As I explain the MRP explosion problems later on, you will understand why MRP is the logic. MRP is the logic for determining the number of parts, components, and materials needed to produce a product, which is the end item. It provides time scheduling information specifying when each of the materials, parts, and components should be ordered and produced. To information how much of each item, each part to obtain, and when to order or produce the part, considering the lead time information. Because when you order a certain item, part, we may not receive today. Because it takes sometimes a week, sometimes more than a week. So lead time information should be considered. That's why it's a very complex process. Simply put, dependent demands drives MRP system. Based on the brief information I provided, here is the simple question. Dependent demands and independent demand items differ in that for any product, all components are dependent demand items. That is true. Inherently, all components are dependent demand items. And need for independent demand items is forecast, right? And need for dependent demand items is calculated based on the number of independent demand items. So all of them are true. So the answer is E. Now let's look at the MRP system structure. So in this diagram, I will show you two one is the input of MRP system, the other one is the MRP output. And then you have to understand that MRP system is run by MRP computer program. So that's why we need to provide some of the input to MRP computer program to run this MRP, and it generates the primary report and secondary reports. So let's think about MRP system inputs. There are three major input to MRP system. First major input is master production schedule. We simply call master schedule or MPS. This master production schedule states what is the requirement of a particular product during a specific time period. And this is generated from either customer direct order or forecast of demand from customers based on the company's aggregate production plan. So customer direct order, sometimes external customers or corporate customers such as Dell or Samsung, or internal customers such as marketing department, they have a direct order. And sometimes we just have a forecast of demand from customers based on the company's aggregate strategy, production plan strategy. These are the two major sources to master production schedule, which contains the information about end items. The second major input is the BOM, or bill of material file. These identify the specific materials used to make each item and correct quantities of each. And if there is any engineering design changes, it should be included in this BOM file. For example, smartphone requires constant engineering design changes such as screen size and so on. Then if any design change happens, then those design change information should be included in the BOM file. Finally, third input is the inventory record file that contains the data such as number of units on hand or number of units on order. And that comes from inventory transactions. It tells you that what is the basic status of inventory of different items. So these three sources, MPS, master production schedule, BOM, and inventory record file, these are become the data source for MPS. These are data source for MRP program, which generate the primary report, such as plan order release for inventory and production control, and secondary report, such as exception report, planning report, and report for performance control. These are the output. Let me briefly deal with those major input to MRP system one more time. Master production schedule we call MPS or master schedule deal with end item. And while aggregate plan provide just general range of operation, this MPS specify exactly what need to be produced and when to produce. So aggregate plan only shows overall quantities to produce without specifying type, while MPS shows the quantities of each type with information about production time frame. So that deals with end items. Second major input, as I told you, is BOM, bill of material file. We can also call product structure file or product tree because it contains the how this end item looks like. In this case, product A is end item, and this consists of part B and part C, 2B and 2C, and part B consists of 1D and 4E, and part C consists of 2F, 5G, and 4H. That's what end item A looks like. So it contains the complete product description. And end item is level 0, and then level 1, level 2, and it goes on and on all the way to level n. If there is any engineering design change happen to end item A, then it changes all the other components and parts. This is very important information to MRP system. Final input is the inventory record file. Contains the extensive amount of information on every item that is produced, ordered, or inventoried in the system. Basically, basic status of inventory record. That's the third major input to MRP system. So far I just briefly explained what each MRP system is and what are the three major input to MRP system. In the next video lecture, I will explain how to calculate BOM or bill of material problems. Thank you.